Hello and welcome to this edition of the Beacon Hill Report. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and joining us today for the first time, Steve Ouellette, Rep. Ouellette from Westport, joining us. He was elected last fall to replace Paul Schmidt, who many folks know has retired and was a guest on this show many times. So welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Good to be here.
You've been here. It's been a whirlwind 5 months, I bet, for you right now.
It has been, starting with a recount before I got in, so it's been interesting.
But it's great to see you. I'm glad and look forward to working with you over the next couple of years on the program at the very least, if not more.
Great.
Talk about the first 5 months. Talk about how things have been going right now for you.
Well, those that don't know, I don't know how many other candidates have discussed it. You start off in the bullpen in Boston, which is a room with the other legislators. And in my case, it was 20 of us, so it was 2 split rooms with 10 legislators and 10 aides in each room. In there waiting for your office, and we didn't get it till, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks ago, so maybe a month ago. So it was 3 months in a room with everybody else. I don't know if you want to call it networking, but everybody you bring in, everybody hears the whole conversation. So it's interesting to start off.
Well, the funny thing too is the one thing that I've heard from other reps through the years too is those people that you go into the legislature with, no matter what side of the fence they're on, those are going to be your closest friends, really. For
the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some tough issues, but yeah, I mean, at least you could try to talk to them, a little bit about their personalities, and they call it a class. So,
right.
We have a group text and all that good stuff to stay abreast of stuff.
You were an 8-term selectman in Westport.
Yep.
And as you told me off camera, 23 years you left during your last term to become the state rep.
Right.
And as I was talking to you off camera, that has to be great training for this job.
It is. I mean, I'm not the best budget guy in the world, but of course you got to do budgets. I talked to Paul Schmidt quite a bit. That's one of the reasons why he wanted me to go for this job, is because he knows I'll push for the communities. Every aspect of the job. You got to chase the budget. You got to take care of personnel issues. You got to learn the region. You got to learn all. Deal with the unions. Everything across the board. You got to learn your demographics. In my case, Horseneck's in Westport, Horseneck Beach. So you're trying to get that place straightened out. Fortunately, we have the chairman of Ways and Means as our senator, so that helps getting Horseneck addressed along with Paul Schmidt at the time. Now it's my job to chase it. Yeah.
But the thing too is, as I've said, I think you have one of the best districts in the state because, as I was telling you off camera,
right.
I don't think there's too many issues, if any, that you aren't dealing with.
Right.
Not to say that none of the reps don't deal with it, but you've got urban issues, rural issues, coastal issues. I mean, your district, which includes all of Westport and then parts of Fall River, Freetown, Acushnet, and New Bedford.
Correct. So I've got 2 gateway cities, and I've got 3 towns that more or less don't want to be in the spotlight, and 2 diversified cities that are looking to get things done. It's interesting to say the least, but yeah, every aspect of, we've got 6,000 bills we're going through right now, and just about every one could affect one of my communities.
Does that, so how do you look at that as you're starting now, and and again, I'm sure that you've actually knew some of the players going in from your prior experience, but it is daunting, but it's got to be exciting as well, because these issues, and it's different when you're on the outside talking to a rep, and then now you're the rep.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I've got a staff of 1. My aide is also the selectman from Westport that I've worked with for 10 plus years. So it's interesting. Like today, my mailbox is full of stop the assault rifles in Rhode Island. It's Rhode Island legislative.
Really, it has nothing to do with you, yeah.
No, it's Rhode Island legislative handling, but I've got probably 20 or 30 emails about assault weapons because some organization probably put out there, get a hold of your legislator about this gun bill.
Yeah.
It's Rhode Island. Every one of the paragraphs in it says Rhode Island, assault rifles, blah, blah, blah. As you know, my communities are heavy into, they like their firearms, they like their Second Amendment. So anything that like that comes at me, anything involving farming is heavy, and trucks. They like their diesel out here, and there's, I had to sign on to postpone it a year because they wanted electric trucks now, commercial trucks, and we don't even have them made, which was, a little overzealous. So that was another thing in my communities that we were just.
The one thing, and you said off camera, which I think is great, and other reps have said it too, even though you represent just parts of the communities, your attitude is you represent the communities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have the Coastal Caucus, we have the Fishing Caucus, and my is 1C that's up near the Pulaski School. It doesn't touch the water. Hendricks and Tony Cabral have the water.
Right.
But we're all at the meetings, and we're all trying to fight for our fishermen and get the waterfront addressed. So yeah, we go in as a delegation. In New Bedford is the most delegations. There's 5 of us for New Bedford, 3 in Fall River.
Which is, it's got to be nice because you've got some guys that have, some folks that have your back when you're trying to get these issues, and then that's where the coalitions begin.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that if you're outside the 495 Beltway,
Yeah.
It's a different world because Boston sucks a lot of the oxygen out of the room, and you guys are really fighting together to get whatever the issue is through.
Well, Tony's chairman, I believe it's housing, and I tried to get into, before I came here, I was trying to get into his meeting, and it's totally full. Couldn't even get in the doors. So that's what I mean. That's what the hearing's like. Rep Cabral is the chairman of a committee, so that means you get more staff. So for the folks at home that wouldn't understand, as you rise, some people are for term limits, but as you rise and you put your years in, you get more commitments, you get more duties, more responsibilities. And so he's the chairman of a committee, so he has more staff and he's got responsibilities. And as a chairperson, you're involved with the budget process, you're involved in the subcommittees. So there's a lot of responsibilities and stuff you can get for your community. He got some good earmarks. Right across the board between all of us. Well, I co-sponsored it. We'll give the Hendricks, Markey, and Cabral a lot of the credit, but right across the board, LGBTQ stuff, fishing stuff, UMass stuff, right across the board.
You've got some great committee assignments. I saw you've got intergovernmental, post-audit, and then you're on the Joint Committee of Agriculture, which, well, there's a shock. You're replacing the former chairman, for crying out loud.
Well, here's the story. We had our meeting, it was earlier this week, I believe. We had a hearing this week. The most popular thing that took the most time, I bet you there was at least 20 people testifying, was Representative Hendricks' bill to not have octopus farming in Massachusetts. We don't have it now. And
I've never even heard of that.
Well, what happens, and just so everybody at home, it is not to stop eating octopus. It's just for the farming of octopus. And we had all kinds of testimony that they're really smart. They can escape. They can take shells and smash the glass. They got disease. People could probably see it at masslegislative.com. But that was our biggest one this week. Was everybody supported not having octopus farms.
So talk about agriculture, because I know that Rep. Schmidt also, when he was here, talked about aquaculture being part of that too.
It is.
It's a big issue. It's a big assignment being on that committee from where you're from.
Well, let's put it this way. Now, that was this meeting, which was a New Bedford proposal. The first meeting was about the overflow from New Bedford affecting oyster farms. It's particularly across the way, Fairhaven and Mattapoisett oyster farms. So the New Bedford overflow was one of our first discussions that we need about $1 billion to fix it because of the combined sewers within New Bedford. I know the mayor's talked about it before. For the folks that don't know, the stormwater and the sewer mix and dump into the water off the shore. That's why the swim was canceled last year. I don't know if they call it the channel swim, but there was a swim out there that was canceled.
Yeah, the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
There you go. So it's a problem, but it's a massive expense, and it's going to be an inconvenience for the city because it's every neighborhood you got to dig up. I know they did 2 of them, but there's a lot more to be done.
Yeah. The other things, I know that your joint emergency preparedness and management, and one I thought that was interesting, the joint advanced information technology, et cetera, on that committee.
That one's the most contentious, or the one we have the most input for. We had 7-hour hearing already.
I would imagine like AI being a huge issue with that committee.
It is, and I think people pretty much have an idea of what it is, but it's right across the board now. It's affecting everybody, and it's cybersecurity is part of that committee.
So, and I was going to say with the cybersecurity implications.
Yeah.
So where does the state stand on that right now? Because it's a relatively new technology, and everybody's learning at the same time.
Well, right now we're concentrating on companies not being able to sell information. Like say, and I don't believe they do it, but like say South Coast Health or something. Many of us use it. Our information's in there. We're trying to put a stop to them being able to sell it, and not that South Coast does. I'm just giving an example. That was our priority at the first meeting, was trying to get it so companies cannot sell our data. In other words, if you apply for a loan right now online, you're probably going to get spam for months with calls. Hey, you want a loan? You want a loan? There's a dark web out there that has plenty of information, and we're trying to stop it. And of course, big companies, most of them support part of it, but not the whole thing, because they want to have the opportunity to sell our names.
Is that, I would assume that committee in itself, just the topics and the issues expanding, that's going to be a lot of learning for you folks, because the technology keeps changing.
I am not a techno geek. I'm a licensed plumber. So I think that's what the speaker wanted was some, not only somebody from pretty much across the state on the committee, but a general person on there. So I have with police duties and being involved with the internet, I have addressed cyber crime and cyber issues before involving youngsters, people going after youngsters. So I've got some experience in that part.
And elderly.
Yeah. And elderly, yeah. So across the board, that is the one that was the most full in 7 hours of testimony.
That's crazy.
Directly.
The legislature, or the House, just passed its budget proposal. I know it's going to go through conference committee when the Senate announces theirs, which they haven't done yet. And this is your first budget, I know. You're familiar with the budget process from the municipal side.
Yeah.
Just give me your impressions on the state budget, the process, and just your overall thoughts.
I think, we all know there was issues with the trains. So obviously I support putting some money into that so that they can straighten that out. But what happened on the House side is they put a lot of money in the MBTA. I don't have the figures off the top of my head, but we supplanted not my proposal, but I voted for it. It was to put a lot of money into the MBA. I'm doing this in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The House side is doing more local, putting more money into local projects. What we do is we go in and we try to get our own earmarks. That's what I was mentioning briefly about the other reps going. What I was trying to go for New Bedford was to upgrade the lights at the soccer field. Unfortunately, the money went toward the other reps, but I put something in for New Bedford because I wanted it. I talked to the mayor, and he said it would be a good idea. So that was my shot at it. So anyways, to go through, you go through the whole process. We have thousands. I think for that one there was 1,650 amendments to go through on that budget, and everybody wants to modify the governor's proposals.
The House budget was actually less than the governor's proposal.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it a concern to you that there seems to be questions about how? I mean, there's with tariffs and there's the Moody's, I believe it's Moody's, says 60% chance of a recession. As you're looking at the budget right now, there's just a lot of unanswered questions about what to do.
It is.
How are you looking at that? And again, I think your experience being from a municipal government with your background makes it interesting. How do you handle this?
Well, we're using some of the reserves, I'm sure you know, this year to help supplant it. We're just trying to get by this year, and we're preparing everybody that it could get a lot worse if all of this happens. It's coming forward. It's no secret. Headlines every day is the president addressing different parts of our state and our governor. So a regular person would think we're going to be somewhat punished. So we have a concern. The state's still doing very well, partly because of our educational facilities, our coastline. As far as I know, the numbers I read were a little above anticipated revenue for the first quarter.
Okay.
So we're doing okay, but that's not our federal money. Part of the amendments we had to do for this area, Representative Mark Sylvia did, and the rest of the delegators supported it, was the coastal food shed, because they're not getting federal funds. And our farmers are getting hit with what's called the HIPS program and whatnot, that they're not even going to farmers markets anymore. So on our end, we needed to supplant that. I believe we got $100,000 or $50,000 for that, and that helps the local area too.
I know that one of the big concerns from reading about it is mass health.
Yes,
Medicaid,
well, that's a major part of the budget.
because it's one of the biggest parts of the budget, and there's an unknown if you're going to get the reimbursements from the federal government.
Correct.
And there's so many people on mass health.
There is. When we voted for that large amount of money addressing the immigrants and our homeless, our veterans, that part of it was to reduce those numbers, and it got reduced. I believe our number was 4,000. It got reduced by 1,000 in the first quarter. It started off at like 6,000 people at the beginning of the year, down to like 5,000 or 4,000 now. So we're trying to get the numbers down so there's not more money expended, obviously. But it's a concern for sure.
And the homeless shelter program, I know it's the amount of people in the shelter right now is at its lowest point in a while.
Yes.
But the legislature had to propose money for the remainder of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
And then, what happens next year?
That's what we've got to. That's the problem. Is that we need to do something about the problem. They need to be registered. They need to be documented. By they, of course, I'm talking about human beings and people in the area. But it needs to be addressed. Everybody thinks they're just putting these people in a hotel and giving them checks. They're trying to do some documentation, but to my knowledge, I haven't been updated lately. I don't know the status currently. Right now, we're just trying to reduce numbers and have them move on. I
know that the recently too, one of the big issues is that the state health insurance program for state employees, the GIC as it's called, that was short money too.
It was.
And you guys, I know the House put some money in just recently.
There was a joint meeting on that, and that's. I don't know if they came to a decision. It was right after I was leaving to come see you. So there was supposed to be a joint session. It was very brief, so I think they continued it. But that was just as I was leaving to come here.
But you sit there and you think, you're trying to compare it to a municipal government which doesn't have enough for their town employees. How do you over budget that or under budget that, I guess? Yeah,
obviously I wasn't.
You weren't there, but I know.
I know, and it's a supplementation process now. You have to go to the hearings, you have to get updated. I have not been briefed on exactly why that happened, if it's just the percentage going up or not, and the number of employees. I'm not on workforce and labor development, so I have not been briefed on that yet.
Okay. The mayor proposed his budget.
Yes.
And he talked about one of the biggest things, and you and I were talking about this off camera, one of the biggest issues is that municipal aid, and again, your background as a Westport selectman, you've seen that the aid to cities and towns has not kept up with the price of inflation, and it's been like that since 2008.
Yeah.
I know that some of the reps, and the mayor mentioned the delegation was working to try to get a formula that's more fair, I guess, because education aid's gone up, but municipal aid hasn't, and it's affecting everybody's budget.
Absolutely. It's called UGA, Unrestricted Government Aid. And I know Ways and Means is working on that, and I think more should be coming to the communities. And
I was going to say, do you see that though from your experience in
trying to get the numbers down? I think by now at the higher levels they admit the migration issue was a problem. Obviously, I'd rather see some of that money coming to my communities. I think most of the reps would say that. So I hopefully as the numbers come down, there'll be more coming to the communities. But we don't know on the national level what's going to get chopped up where we have to pay Peter to pick the ball or whatever it's called.
But it seems it's funny too because you see, and I saw Brookline going through this and other things. The health insurance, pensions, these mandated costs or fixed costs on every municipal budget are really affecting what communities can do with the rest of the money.
I agree. And I'm hoping we can get more. Right now, we concentrated, like you said, on education, trying to get $150 per student. So at least the schools will have a budget that they can survive on. I think the governor's proposal was 104. It started off at 85, went to 104, and the House proposed $150 per student for funding for the schools, for Chapter 70 and the schools. But you're right, on the municipal side, we need to supplement more funding.
What do you, so you're, like I said, the session, actually the formal session is actually, when you think about it, about 6 weeks away.
Yeah.
What are you focused on right now? What are your big issues that you want to tackle
Well, there's so many funding's part of it. Food, our school programs, our food, our facilities, making sure they're up to date. I personally worked with school facilities, so I'm aware of issues. I mean, in one of the towns that I represent now, Acushnet, where I was working, they had a mold problem. They had to shut the schools down for a week and spend upwards of almost $1 million cleaning it. So the town just voted down a debt exclusion to help put in new HVAC and try to address the problem better, because people don't have money right now. That, electricity,
Well, the electric bills were
and gas.
so bad this winter for people.
So the governor just proposed the new I don't know if it's an amendment, but she put it out yesterday. We're still reviewing that. And that's supposed to help people. Hopefully that's going to help everybody, but we're all hurting on that.
And it's funny because I don't think people grasp it. It's not a municipal issue. It's the state regulators who oversee gas and electric are the ones that determine the rate. And
I'm for trying to have some cleaner energy, but part of it was for cleaner energy. Part of it's to go look at your house. What was it, 500 million she cut out of that program, so it was a good chunk of change there. This month people got their $50. I know people have said it's laughable, but they got $50 rebate on their bill from the state. So that's some of the main concerns. Obviously trying to keep our mental health an issue right now.
There was less money too.
Less money in mental health. There's so many things. Agricultural, we're trying to keep the farms up, and now there's actually robotic milkers with cows. They put microchips. Yeah, if you go to Bristol Ag, you can see it. They put microchips in cows now, and everything's almost a one-person operation. The milkers.
I have never heard that before.
Yeah, the agricultural.
Wow.
I don't mean to hit the mic. So yeah, the cows come in now. There's a chip that scans them. The machine comes in, is matched up to their udders. Everything's data goes in. The milk that right down the line. It's all computerized. So another AI thing.
It's got to be difficult because, we talk about everybody, and I'm generalizing here, everybody needs more money.
Right.
Whether it's schools, municipal, this, that, and the other thing, and yet there is no more money, it seems. And you're trying to balance, but the other thing, costs are going up.
It is. Well,
so balance, and how do you talk to people about that?
Well, we try to help out with programs because there's so many programs in the state, but even those were having difficulties because we gave the number to help out a gentleman with fuel assistance, and he just called me back that they're having problems getting fuel assistance. Mostly, if somebody calls me with an issue, we try to track down the problem. I try to go to hearings, like I mentioned before I left for here. That one was totally full. Went to one before that on celiac disease before that, because people don't even think of that, and now gluten-free in schools can affect, like we had problems with peanut butter before. Somebody in a classroom could break out. Now they're having a problem with gluten. So there's so much stuff to learn, but yeah, across the board, there's just a multitude of things, and you try to keep up with it. I try to get up to Boston at least 3 days a week. I've got district stuff on Mondays and Fridays, and try to get as much info as I can. And you wouldn't believe the amount of lobbyists and people
I imagine, yeah.
Schools every day, which can be fun. All the kids asking questions. There was 2 schools up there today. So
does it come to a point where government, whether it's at the municipal, state, and I guess the federal government's looking at now, you really have to look at services and what services are, and I guess you could argue that all services are needed, but what are really needed? Well,
yeah, I know. And if you think of it, Acushnet, Freetown, Westport, minimal services. Don't even have trash pickup at most of them. And the cities are denser. You have a lot more to it. You have a lot more across the board. You have a lot more diversity. You have a lot more needs. So they're really hurting. And especially like Acushnet, you've got minimal. You've got your town highway department doing the roads instead of paying a contractor to try to avoid some money. So it's a tough battle for some communities. Some towns like Westport, we're lucky enough to have waterfront McMansions that are paying taxes, and their kids don't even go to our schools. So that helps supplant some of the budget. But yeah, like I say, every community is a little different, and it's unique.
I would assume that one of the things you've got to tackle right off the bat too, one of the issues is housing.
Housing's tough.
And you
yeah.
keep hearing about housing.
It is.
The housing shortage. I know Rep. Schmidt would tell me, like, there's a housing shortage in Westport right now.
There is. I was, as a selectman, I tried to push water and sewer. I brought it to town. The town people said no on the sewer. We only have water going down more because we had PFAS contamination and got $2 million grant. So it cost the taxpayers $0 to bring it down. And they don't. Here's the difference between city and town. A town, if you want, there's a subject you want to go and vote on, you can go to town meeting, even though you're not a regular participant. You go to the city, it's a city council, you have to sell them on your idea, but you know where they're coming from.
Right.
You've got a council of 9 that'll talk to you, can talk to anybody. I stand on this, and this is how I'm going to vote on this. Town meeting, you can have, and it happens, 150 people show up to vote something down, that one item, and then they all leave.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the towns and the cities. But yeah, we do need some housing, and the funny part is the housing's through the roof because evidently people thought when minimum wage went up that rents would stay the same. It doesn't. As minimum wage went up, everything else went
everything,
up.
yeah.
And that's the thing when people push a big program like that, not realizing the consequences. It's a little scary.
In a sense, what role does the state play, though?
Well, subsidized housing. The governor is very big. She's pushing a multitude. I don't remember the numbers, but that's her main thing is housing. When she came to Westport, she was asking how many more houses can she add. She is very big on housing. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, you give tax breaks. You could give grants. There's all kinds of things. Help put like they just did with the water line.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. You might want to have DEP come down and work on the wetlands issues, brownfields. I mean, there's so many different aspects.
Right.
The brownfield grants, as you're probably aware, and wetlands, like in Westport, it's all wetlands along Route 6. Maybe you could replicate in a different area. That's a state agency. You got to work with DEP on that.
Yeah.
Brownfields right across the board.
Just a lot.
There is. It's a lot to it.
When you're in the end here, I just want to thank you for coming in. If people have questions or want to get in touch with you that are watching the program, because, like I said, you're new, and I know the other guys have always given out numbers and email addresses. Why don't you tell people how they can get in touch with you?
My State House email is Steve.Ouellette, OUELLETTE @mahouse.gov. The local number is 508-677-0905. That's my local office number. And then for Boston, it's 617-722-2090. And then you listen to the prompts.
There won't be a pop quiz on that. You were thinking about it.
If they want to mail anything, it's room 33 at the State House, 14 Beacon Street.
Do you have a decent office, decent view?
No, I have no view.
Okay.
It's a wall about this high. It's a cubicle. I'm a rookie. I'm a freshman. So
it's great having you come in. This
Thank you.
half hour's flown. I appreciate it.
No problem.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Beacon Hill Report. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Did you know that you can watch any of New Bedford Cable Network shows anytime, anywhere on all of your mobile devices? How, you may ask? Just log on to nbcablenetwork.com and bam! You have all 3 channels at your fingertips: public, educational, and government access. Here, you can view our program schedules, watch our channel's live broadcasts, or search for a particular program in our vast library of shows. Last year alone, New Bedford Cable Network produced over 500 shows, and nearly all of them are available online at nbcablenetwork.com. Not only can you stay up to date with what's happening in your local government and schools, but also dive into some of New Bedford Cable Network's original award-winning programs. So check us out at nbcablenetwork.com.